and took at least one individual into custody. The agents, who we presume to be ICE, had their tactical vests on, and they also arrived in military vehicles. Now, City Council member Christopher Marte, who represents this area, has issued a statement. He says that this raid on Canal Street was a horrifying display of federal overreach. ICE has no place in New York City, especially not in the heart of Chinatown, terrorizing our immigrant neighbors with military vehicles and masked agents. Agents, he says, were masked.
So let me get this straight. ICE raids Canal Street in New York City, and suddenly the left loses their minds? Where were these people when local businesses were complaining for years about illegal vendors clogging their streets? Oh wait, I'll tell you where they were. Silent. Because back then, it wasn't politically useful. But now that Trump's in office, now it's lawless terror. Give me a break.
And the difference between an LA and even a Chicago and New York is the density. There's no places in New York where you're going to be able to roll up on people without there being a lot of people around. And this is a good example of it. Set the stage here, Emma.
Yeah, so we got word yesterday that ICE agents raided Canal Street, and this is very much likely based on the fact that there was a TPUSA right-wing internet personality named Savannah Hernandez, who over the weekend had 2 separate posts where she basically tagged ICE and told them to clean up the area. And it seems like within 48 hours at the very least, ICE responded to it. We can play what happened yesterday, and then, if you'd like, how do you think the sequencing makes sense, Sam?
Okay.
Look, I don't care if you think Savannah Hernandez is some right-wing personality or whatever label you want to slap on her. The fact is, she's doing what journalists are supposed to do. Shine a light on a problem. And yeah, it's been going on for decades. But here's the kicker. When it's convenient for the left, when they can use it to attack Trump or ICE, suddenly it's this massive scandal. But when Eric Adams was mayor, when de Blasio was mayor, crickets, zero outrage. Why? Because enforcing the law only matters to these people when they can weaponize it politically. And let's be real, those vendors aren't just selling knockoff bags. They're operating illegally. They're undercutting legitimate businesses who pay taxes, follow regulations, and contribute to the economy. But the left doesn't care about that. They care about the optics. They care about calling ICE Gestapo and pretending this is some authoritarian crackdown. It's pathetic.
Buying these Louis Vuitton bags, buying these YSL bags. Obviously, all of them are knockoffs. Now, I spoke to some of the migrants. They were telling me they're all from Senegal. And as I'm walking around, they all start grabbing their bags very quickly. Again, this entire block was filled with all of these bags. And they picked them all up very quickly. Within 2 minutes, they all started jumping in vehicles, running away. I was speaking to one of the migrants, and he ended up telling me...
All right, whatever. So, you can see that she's breaking news here. They sell counterfeit bags on Canal Street. I don't know if you've ever heard this
Is she from New York?
No.
I mean, I'm guessing
Shocker.
That would make sense. I mean, this has been going on for... I can attest to it being going on for at least 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
This is fork found in kitchen mode here. Wow, what investigative journalism. She's really brave. I hope she's wearing a bulletproof vest because she's on the scary streets of New York City surrounded by people from Senegal.
Oh, here we go. Is she from New York? So what? Does she need a New York City residency card to point out illegal activity? This is the weakest deflection I've ever heard. They're sitting there mocking her like she's uncovering some big secret. Oh wow, counterfeit bags on Canal Street. What investigative journalism? Yeah, no kidding, it's been going on for decades. But here's what these clowns don't understand. Just because something's been happening for a long time doesn't make it legal, and it doesn't make it okay. You know what else has been going on for decades? Tax evasion, organized crime, political corruption. Should we just throw up our hands and say, well, it's been happening forever, so who cares? That's essentially what they're arguing here. And the worst part, they're acting like nobody's affected by this. Like it's just some harmless tourist attraction. Let me tell you who is affected. The legitimate business owners on Canal Street who've been filing complaints for years. The store managers who are literally afraid to show their faces on camera because these illegal vendors harass their customers and intimidate anyone who doesn't buy their knockoff garbage.
We received a tremendous amount of complaints about counterfeit goods from the community and from the business owners. So as you can see, there is a tremendous amount, like I said, and we're here seizing that and taking it off the streets.
Police came, I'm happy because the street looks nice.
This store manager was afraid to show his face out of fear of retribution from the illegal vendors who set up shop outside. And he says routinely harass his customers when they decline to buy one of their fake bags. Tonight, he says he's glad they're gone, at least for now.
The taxpayers who fund city services, while these vendors operate completely off the books, paying zero taxes, following zero regulations. But Emma and Sam want to laugh it off because, what, Savannah Hernandez isn't a native New Yorker? Give me a break. You don't need to be from New York to recognize that blocking storefronts, selling counterfeit goods worth tens of millions of dollars, and creating a hostile environment for legitimate businesses is wrong. You just need common sense, something these two clearly left behind somewhere between their talking points. The fact that this has been going on for 30 or 40 years isn't a defense. It's an indictment. It's proof that local leadership has failed for decades to address this problem because they're too busy worrying about optics and political correctness. And now, when someone finally does something about it, they want to mock the messenger instead of addressing the actual issue. That's not journalism. That's activism disguised as commentary. And it's exactly why people are fed up.
Immediate reaction by New Yorkers as they saw this going down. Flipping them off.
Looks like people that just got off work too.
Yeah, I mean, this is literally completely spontaneous.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with New York. It's a much more dense place. And so, what would normally be, 5 or 6 people yelling at them, all of a sudden they're going to have 50 to 100 people, surrounding them. And here they've grabbed one guy. I don't know how this is sequenced, this clip, but
it's also, the reporting is unclear how many they took, but they were moving south basically towards 26 Federal Plaza, which is like basically one subway stop away from.
And let's talk about this spontaneous crowd that formed around ICE agents. You think that was organic? Come on. This is New York City, the same city where progressive activists have made a career out of obstructing law enforcement. The same city where they scream, "Abolish ICE," and then act shocked when ICE actually does their job. These people aren't defending democracy. They're defending lawlessness. They're defending a system where illegal activity is tolerated as long as it's politically convenient. And when law enforcement steps in to do what they're supposed to do, enforce the law, they call it terror. Number. What's terrorizing is living in a neighborhood where your business is blocked by illegal vendors, where your customers are harassed, where the streets are filled with counterfeit goods and nobody does anything about it because politicians are too scared of being called racist or xenophobic. Here's the truth. ICE didn't make a mistake in New York City. The mistake was letting it get this bad in the first place. The mistake was electing leaders like Eric Adams and governors like Hochul who care more about scoring political points than protecting their own citizens. And the biggest mistake? Thinking the American people are dumb enough to fall for this lawless terror narrative when we can all see what's really going on.
And this is what he told us he witnessed.
Have you ever seen 50 to 100 federal agents mobbing a street and beating up people on the street? Because that's exactly what just happened. Targeting street vendors who are simply trying to make a living in our city and arresting them today. As ordinary New Yorkers see other New Yorkers being hurt and vilified by these individuals. Of course, anyone who sees someone being wrongfully targeted is going to take some form of action. And to see military vehicles driving down the streets of New York City, we don't need boots on the ground.
So here's the bottom line. The left wants you to believe that enforcing immigration law is somehow un-American, that cracking down on illegal activity is fascism. But the reality is simple. Laws exist for a reason. Borders exist for a reason. And when you ignore them, when you let illegal vendors run rampant, when you turn cities into sanctuary zones for people who have no business being here, you're not protecting democracy. You're destroying it. New Yorkers know this. That's why they've been complaining for years. But the left doesn't care about New Yorkers. They care about their narrative. Well, guess what? The narrative is crumbling, and ICE is just getting started. If that bothers you, maybe it's time to ask yourself why you're more upset about law enforcement doing their job than you are about the lawlessness they're trying to stop.